Oh, well, I mean, I think we've expressed real concern about it. I think it is, for many people, it's pretty shocking that the British government is voting through its parliament a bill that breaks international law. I don't ever remember a time when that's happened before. Let's wait and see what happens to this bill, because I think there's certainly an awful lot of division within Westminster as to whether it's acceptable or not to do that. And we only saw the first round of that debate yesterday and the first vote. But look, we need to ensure that we don't obsess with what's happening in the House of Commons, and instead we need to focus on how we can rebuild some trust in the relationship between the EU and the UK in a way that actually can provide, through negotiation, solutions to outstanding issues that concern both sides. Because the big prize here is to actually get a deal on a future relationship, particularly on a trade agreement that avoids tariffs and quotas being implemented on trade crossing the Irish Sea, which is worth about 80 billion euros a year in terms of economic activity. And that, I think, has to be the big focus. This in some ways is a big distraction. It's a hugely unwelcome distraction. It makes already very complex negotiations even more complex and difficult. And of course it erodes trust between both sides. And that has been, you can only say, a deliberate strategy of the British government, which is very, very unwelcome and damages Britain's reputation internationally, not just their relationship with the EU and with Ireland. But that being said, the big challenge here, I think, for senior politicians who are involved in this process and the two negotiating teams led by David Frost and Michel Barnier is, can we resolve issues that effectively make this legislation irrelevant, so that it can be put away and we can focus on actually agreeing a partnership that the UK can accept, that the EU can accept, and that most importantly protects Irish businesses into the new year. That's certainly my focus.
And there's no, Minister, there's no good outcome, is there, if there's a no-deal Brexit? To reiterate that again, because you can't really renegotiate the withdrawal agreement that took painstakingly months and years to...
Oh, I mean, let me make very clear, the withdrawal agreement stands in its own right. So whether there's a deal or whether there isn't a deal, the withdrawal agreement and the Irish protocol needs to be implemented under international law. But the protocol becomes more difficult to implement in terms of its impact on Northern Ireland and on the checks that are required in ports and so on. If there isn't a future relationship agreement that has a trade deal as part of it, because of course on top of all of the other things that we'll have to do around customs and SPS checks and live animal checks and so on, we may have to collect tariffs on that trade and implement potentially quotas in terms of the volumes that can be traded, and I think that would be hugely damaging to big sectors like the agri-food sector, both in Ireland and the UK. So the message is very clear. By having no trade deal, we don't do away with the withdrawal treaty and the Northern Ireland Protocol. They are embedded in international law and an international treaty, even if the British government is threatening to breach some elements of that treaty.
And are we